ਖਾਸ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਅੱਜ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਅਜਿਹੀ ਸ਼ਖਸੀਅਤ ਨਾਲ ਕਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੋ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਸਿਆਸਤ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਅਹਿਮ ਦਰਜਾ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਨੇ। ਮੇਰੀ ਮੁਰਾਦ ਹੈ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ, ਰਿਫਿਊਜੀਜ਼ ਐਂਡ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਜੋਹਨ ਮੈਕਕਲਮ ਨਾਲ। ਔਰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਰਹੀ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਭਾਰਤ ਯਾਤਰਾ, ਔਰ ਅਸਲ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਇੰਟਰਸਟ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਹੈ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਔਰ ਸਿਟੀਜ਼ਨਸ਼ਿਪ ਦਾ। ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਔਰ ਬਾਕੀ ਮੁੱਦਿਆਂ 'ਤੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। So welcome to Chandigarh and welcome to PTC.
Great to be with you. I've been on your station many times in Canada, but this is the first time in Chandigarh.
Yeah.
Great to be here.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. McCallum, you have been to Amritsar. You are now in Chandigarh. You are in Delhi also.
Yes.
So, how would you sum up your first phase of your visit to India? And this is the first time you are in India?
Well, I would say the highlight has been the visit to the Golden Temple.
Yeah.
It is very moving to be in the holiest place of
That's
a
right.
major religion, even if one is not of that religion. And the other thing that impressed me about the Golden Temple was the 4 entrances signifying
4 doors.
openness to all.
Yeah.
And it's of course a beautiful place. So if I had to give you one highlight, I think that must be the highlight.
Yeah.
But India is one of our very biggest sources for immigrants. So as immigration minister, it's really important for me to see everything with my own eyes, to see where we're doing well and where there are challenges and we could do better. And you know, India's growing, 60% increase in a single year of applications from India to come to Canada as students. So it's a very growing place, and we welcome people. I'm in the people business.
That's right.
And we welcome people, and so I'm very pleased to be here in India.
Yeah, I was reading your profile, and I find it's very interesting. You were managing finances first, now you are managing human resources.
That's right.
So how do you find, from moving from a bank to, first you were National Defense Minister, you also were for revenue, and now you are holding a very important portfolio.
Well, immigration is very exciting. Early in my period, the biggest thing was to welcome 25,000 Syrian refugees in 4 short months, and we carried that off. The Canadian people were hugely supportive, so I'm proud as a Canadian that at a time when many countries are closing their doors, we welcomed all those people. But we also welcome others. So right now, we are welcoming international students more strongly than before. We're encouraging students to come to Canada to become permanent residents. We have special welcome for highly talented individuals and obviously people from India. But there's one other thing I would say, and I've gone around the world in China and Philippines and other places. We certainly welcome all newcomers, but we don't put up with fraud and dishonesty. And too often, honest people are taken for a ride when they receive fraudulent advice. And so my advice to all who would seek to come to Canada is choose honest advisors, go through legitimate programs, and in those circumstances, you're very likely to be welcome to Canada.
So now, once you were talking about the shortage of labor and also aging problem in Canada. So you put up a new policy program that you will welcome about 300,000 people during 2017. And you, as you mentioned, you were in the Philippines and China also, so you are looking for people to move from those countries to Canada as well. So where would you put India in that plan of yours?
India is right at the top. India, China, and Philippines are the 3 top sources of our immigrants. And why do you think I'm in India? To see the Golden Temple, but it's also because India is a very, very important country for all of our immigration, both permanent immigration and students, many of whom will become permanent, and tourists and temporary workers, skilled workers. All sorts of people come from India, and as I just said, the growth in student applications, 60% in a single year, shows huge growth, And India is a huge country, with
Yeah.
over 1 billion people.
Yeah.
So it's normal for me to come here.
Right. And the last government, the previous government, conservatives, they lost the express entry program, but then there were people who were finding very difficult to make use of it. Are you thinking of making some changes?
Yes.
And make it a little easier for people?
Absolutely. Express entry is a good idea in the sense that we don't have long inventories and waits for people, but it needs to be improved. One of the ways in which we're improving it is to make it easier for international students to come.
Yeah.
Because international students have to get what you call a labor market impact assessment, which means they have to prove if they get a job, the company has to say that no Canadian is available. Now, if you're a student going for an entry-level first job, often companies can't say that. So it's difficult for international students to
come in.
to succeed under express entry.
Entry.
But we think that international students make the best future Canadians. They're young, they're educated,
Yeah.
they know something about the country, and so we're going to give them additional points so that it will be easier for international students to become Canadians.
So when you talk of skilled category, so you would look more and more for students to come in and then train and get education there and then become permanent residents.
Yes. And not every student will want to become a permanent resident, but we need them. As you just said, we have an aging population.
Yeah.
Not enough Canadians are having babies, and we
Yeah.
need immigrants in order to continue to grow our economy. We're the opposite of India,
That's right.
where I think the median age is 26 years old. We are aging. We need immigrants. I
Youngsters.
think among the best immigrants are international students. And we also have this new special program to make it easier for the highly skilled, talented people in the high-tech sector, information technology, to come to Canada quickly.
Right. Coming to the same immigration issue, and there's one clause which the Indian community in Canada feels very strongly about, is the family reunion. And you have fixed, I think, increased by 4,000 from 80,000 to 84,000 in the family
Yes.
reunion category.
Yes.
Does it meet the requirement of?
Well, look, we hadn't come to this, but I would say the single most important commitment in the entire election platform on
Yeah.
which we were elected is to bring down the processing time for family unification.
Yeah.
Right now, it is 2 years, more or less, for a husband and wife to be reunited. We think this is far, far, far too long, and I can promise you
Yeah.
that within a few weeks or a month or two, we will get that time radically down, because it is unconscionable, unacceptable for the Canadian state to force people to wait 2 years. We will get that down.
Yeah, you have done it in the Philippines, I learned. In Philippines, you have done it. Family reunion time has been cut to half. It's quicker, much quicker now for people from Philippines moving to family reunion to Canada.
Well, I don't know. I don't think there's a special case for the
Okay.
Philippines. I think
Yeah.
it's too high for everybody.
You're right.
It's 2 years, and we wanted to get it down to a much shorter time than that for India, for Philippines, for China, for everybody.
You also, when you were visiting China, you said that you would advocate for more visa centers in China.
Yes.
And is it also coming for India as
Well,
well?
we already have a lot in India. We got 8 more in China. I think we're up to 12. I'm told we have more than 12 already in India. It's possible we'll get more. But we already in India had way more than we had in China, and now in China we're catching up.
Catching up, okay. And when you are asking people from world over, or skilled people, or like professionals like doctors, engineers, they face a problem. Their degrees, whatever they got, their qualifications in their home countries, they find problems at times they are not recognized in Canada. So accreditation of those educational qualifications, are you doing something for them so that they can, when they move to Canada, they can start working, right?
That's a big problem. It's an enormous problem. It's been a problem for decades. but it's not something the federal government can act on because the accreditation, the professional qualifications come under provincial governments. So I am working with provincial governments. 2 provincial ministers are with me in India now.
That's right.
We work closely together.
They have come with you.
They came with me. They're here. And we are having a conference in 2017, best practices on foreign credentials, which is provincial governments and federal governments. So I am hoping we will make progress in that area. But that's not something that we at the federal level control, so we will work actively with provincial friends to make it better.
And 2 more categories in which probably you are laying emphasis is, one is business investors.
Yes.
And the second is the caregivers.
Yes.
So what do you mean by caregivers? Like what category of people you want to immigrate to Canada in caregiver category?
People who look after or
Nursing.
give care to either little children or old people. My mother is 92 years old.
All right, so somebody else.
She has a caregiver that spends some time helping her. And they also work with little children. And so as our population ages, we'll have more old people and maybe fewer young people. So increasingly caregivers will look after older people as well as younger people. And you know, some of this care is given by Canadians, but often it's difficult to find Canadians. So we have many foreigners, often from the Philippines, who come in and do that work.
Right. And what about businesses? What sort of investors you are seeking they should come over to Canada?
Well, we want entrepreneurs. We want skilled workers. We do not really, at this time, have a program where if you invest a certain amount of money, you can automatically become a permanent resident. We had those programs in the past. They didn't work very well. There was a certain amount of fraud. Many Canadians don't think it's right, in principle, to sell our permanent residence. So right now we don't have those programs, but we still welcome productive entrepreneurial investor type people, but we don't have those specific programs.
Right. So I take you slightly to a different area. Now conservatives, they have a run for leadership.
Yes.
So some of the people have been saying that people who want to move to Canada, they should be screened for anti-Canadian values. So how you react to this? And
look, under Justin Trudeau, and I am a member of his cabinet, we believe in diversity. We believe Canada is strong because of our diversity, not in spite of our diversity. We fought an election on those issues about the NECAB and all of that. We won that election. I don't think Canadians want to go down that path. And so I am totally opposed to this notion, but you don't have to ask me. Most of the Conservatives are opposed to reopening that issue, which was so disposed of in the last election. So yes, there are a couple of candidates for leadership of the Conservative Party who have raised these issues, but most Conservatives have denounced them, including the acting leader, Rona Ambrose. Lisa Raitt, another leadership candidate, denounced it. So it's not just me that doesn't like it. I think across the political spectrum, I don't think Canadians want to go there.
yeah. Yes, so recently you, like Liberal government, nominated the first Sikh to the Senate, Sarbi Merwa, and he must have been one of your colleagues in banking industry. So how you evaluate today, now you're working with Sikh ministers in your cabinet, how you evaluate a community which started and now doing so well?
Well, look, obviously the Sikh community has done extremely well with our government. Four
ministers.
Of the ministers out of 30 are Sikhs, and I know them all very well.
Yeah.
Harjit Sajjan, the defense minister.
You were earlier and now he's your pretty...
I worked closely with him. He worked very closely with us on refugees. Amarjit Sohi, the infrastructure minister. Bardish Chagger, who's now the House leader.
That's right.
A young, at least young by my standards, young woman, first woman House leader for the governing party, and she's doing a great job. And Navdeep Bains. He's actually in India now.
Yeah, that's right.
I was with him yesterday in New Delhi. So yeah, that's 4.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of members of parliament who are Sikhs. So the Sikh community has obviously done extraordinarily well.
That's right.
In our government, but it's not just because they're Sikh. All of the people I've just mentioned are doing great work.
Right, right. And since India and Canada, when we talk of people-to-people contacts, we have very strong bonds between Canada and India.
Yes.
And our Prime Minister went there last time, Modi, and he invited Canadian Prime Minister. So when do we expect Canadian Prime Minister in India?
Soon.
Soon means?
I can't give you an exact date. I think very likely next year.
Next year.
My understanding is that they've agreed. They've met other times, but they've both agreed that our Prime Minister will visit India. Right now, the Prime Minister's office of each country, they're working together to find an appropriate time, but it is as soon as possible. And in some sense, when people like Navdeep Bains and I visit India, we are laying the groundwork for the Prime Minister's visit.
Yeah.
So it will be as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Both sides have agreed to it. It's just a question of the logistics to find the right time.
So early next year we should expect him.
Next year.
Right. And coming to your visit, the last question.
Okay.
Any official business being transacted during this visit?
Well, I had a meeting with one of the ministers. There was a possibility of other meetings. We had a little competition from the British Prime Minister being here.
Right, yeah, she is.
But both Navdeep Bains and I met some Indian government officials, and we're helping to lay the groundwork, I think, for the visit by our Prime Minister.
All right.
And I think our trip is going very well.
Thank you. I hope rest of your visit also proves very useful and helpful, and enjoy your stay in India. And once again, thank you for sparing time for us, and we wish you all the best, and all the best to Indo-Canadian relations.